Yeah.
I was 15 years old and I was invited to a party with two older friends, I should say. And I was given drugs and alcohol. Someone I trusted dearly put PCP and cocaine in my drink, and I didn't know it was in there.
Wow.
Yeah.
These were friends?
Well, she was my friend. He was not, but it was her boyfriend that I believe wanted to get us drugged up so that, you know, he could do whatever he wanted with us afterwards, I would think, because his intentions were not good.
Oh, he wanted, take advantage of you guys.
Yeah.
And what happened?
I drank. I remember it was a Tupperware cup, one of the old pastel cups, a light blue, I remember. And it was filled with Bacardi and Coke. And since I had never drank before, I didn't know what Bacardi is supposed to taste like. So I thought it was bitter. I knew that the drink was not tasty, but I wanted to be a part of the group. So I sipped through my cup and maybe took 3 or 4 ounces of it. When I began to feel really funny, not myself, I started to feel like my body wanted to run, and fear came over me because I've never felt that before. So I didn't know what was really going on with me. So I ran home. I was like 3 blocks from home. I ran home. My girlfriend later showed up. I walked in the house and my mother was sitting there with my aunt and looked at me and said, "What's wrong?" I usually talk and laugh, and you know, I was just standing there. But what happened to me was the drug took over my body. I felt like I was inside a glass wall, yelling for help. I could hear myself saying, "Mom, help me, Mom, help me." And my mom is talking to my aunt, not paying attention to me, but I'm standing there, you know, crying inside, you know, wanting help. And nothing was happening. No voice would come out or anything. I felt like I was paralyzed, you know, like I had all my senses. I could feel everything. I was just stuck inside a glass wall is how I felt. Finally, my mom looked over at me and I just feel, by the grace of God, a tear came down my face. My mom knew something was wrong with me. And she said, "What's wrong with you? You know, what's wrong with you?" And I couldn't talk. I could look around and I could see the guy who gave me the drink, which I know the drug came from, walks in my house and tells my mom, "She'll be all right. She'll be all right. Give her some more of this to drink," which was the same cup that I had the drug in. And I know he wasn't in his right mind. I look back now and think about that. You know, he was out of his mind. My girlfriend also experienced something, but she didn't have the same thing I went through. We both ended up at the hospital, but the ambulance was called. My mother, you know, tried to gag me, you know, by putting her finger down my throat, trying to get me to, you know, to vomit so the drug would come out. 911 was telling her, you know, on the other end, you know, it sounds like she's, you know, on drugs, you know, just do this or do that. And I remember at that time, our house had burned down prior to this happening, and the Red Cross had given us a place to live, and there was mattresses on the floor. We had not had furniture yet, you know, it was just only a few days before. And or the mattresses, I should say, had came in, and no furniture or anything else. But the thing is that I felt so exhausted. I felt like all I wanted to do was just close my eyes and go to sleep. And my sister, being the oldest, had just received Christ maybe a week before I had. And I remember when I laid down on that mattress, I felt like I was floating away from myself, my shell. You know, to say how to explain it, it's like I could feel the heaviness of the body, but I felt something wanting to exit the body is how I felt. And as I laid there, I started to fall asleep. And I remember my sister coming in and laying hands on me and saying, you know, "Lord, please don't let her die. Please don't let her die. Whatever's wrong with her, you just help her, help her." And all of a sudden, I couldn't hear much of anything.
How old was your sister?
She was about 18 at the time.
18, you were 15.
Yeah, yeah. And the ambulance arrived. I remember hearing all the commotion coming from outdoors, you know, from outside. And then I heard them running in. And I remember the gurney coming inside the house. And I remember they laid me on the gurney. At the time, I had super long curly hair. And I remember that it was loose. I kept thinking in my head, I had all my senses. I still could think. I kept thinking my hair was going to get caught in the wheels because they wouldn't, you know, collect it and put it up on the gurney with me. You know, the things we think about. But, you know, I thought that's what's going to happen. Anyway, I remember being wheeled out of the house and my mother crying and everybody, you know, fussing about me and stuff and afraid. We were all afraid. And I get into the gurney and I forced my eyes open. I felt so tired and I forced myself to open my eyes and I could see the paramedic, putting the IV on my arm. And as he put the IV in my arm, I saw that he was like nervous, and I guess the age made him a little nervous, or he was a rookie. I don't know. He was new at this or something, because I remember blood squirting on the side of the wall, and then he corrected it and he started cleaning it up. After that, I couldn't hear anybody. Before that, I could hear my mom. I could hear everybody talking. I couldn't hear a sound.
Blood squirted?
Yeah, because from my, all he had done was put a tube in, and I guess he didn't connect it or something. I don't know what it was, but anyway, I could see the blood, and after that, I couldn't hear anybody. I remember that I had like strong senses. My hearing was not for the people around me any longer, but I could hear like a tire turning. I say that it felt, I believe it was like the tires of the ambulance. Right. But I pictured myself by the sound. The sound was like I was on a train. It was going, I kept hearing that. And I thought to myself, I'm not on a train, I end up opening my eyes all the way when I get to the hospital, but I didn't see anybody when I got there. I saw myself laying on a gurney. And how I saw myself was that I felt some painful feeling right here in between, my chest and stomach. And I felt it force itself out. It was pretty painful, and it began to leave me. And I could see myself float out of my body, and I ended up like in a corner, and I could hear all the doctors. I could hear everybody's conversation. I could hear it, clearly, exactly how, we would hear each other speak with no interruptions. I could hear everything. And I thought to myself, this is how God hears us. I have always known the Lord, but I haven't always served him. I believe I knew him as a child growing up, and I believe that I've seen him already express himself in my life or show up in my life, because I almost fell off a roof and something held me up and sat me down. And I remember, just little things, incidents that I didn't know how that could be, but it happened. So knowing this, I knew of a God, but I didn't know Jesus as my own personal savior. Prior to that day that I took the drugs, I had received Christ through a boyfriend who took me to a church, and there was an altar call, and I took the altar call. I'm glad I did, because if I had not taken that altar call, it would have been too late for me when this experience happened. I believe that I'm here because I'm supposed to tell you about hell. So I'll go on with my story. As I was in the hospital, looking at my body, looking down, hearing everybody around me, and seeing, what was going on around me. I could see everything clearly. I just couldn't understand. But when I realized that I was out of my body, it freaked me out. I started thinking, oh my gosh, this only happens in movies. Am I dead? Am I really dead? And I started to really get scared. When the fear hit me is when I began to fall from my spirit into the body. And as my spirit fell from the corner of that room into the body, I felt as if something heavy fell on me, and I began to fall with the body, because that's how it felt. I began to fall so fast that it felt like somebody had dropped me out of an airplane. My joints and my body felt like they were going to explode. That's how fast I was falling. But when I entered into this place, I knew it was hell. Maybe I've heard it at one time or another in my life about, that there's a bad place called hell and there's a heaven. But I've never read the Bible before then. I didn't know anything about heaven and hell, really. I didn't know that it was written in the Word of God. And, but when I was in that place, I entered, I just knew that I was in hell.
And a quick question. So when you get to that place, can you describe it for us? Like what it looked like?
Yeah, well, all I know is what I felt around me. I felt like I was still falling when I entered this place, but I wasn't feeling like I was falling fast any longer. It's like time slowed down. I was just falling into hell. I never hit the bottom, but I knew that the souls that were around me felt like they were embedded into the walls surrounding me. I could hear the cries of people that I'll never forget. it was like, help, help, get me out, get me out, get me out of here. You know, I don't want to be here any longer. I mean, I could hear horrifying cries, people crying all around me, begging to get out, you know, and asking God to help them to get them out. But it's too late once you're there. Our chance is now. Now is the time to serve the Lord, to make a decision. But I'll go back to that. The Lord, as I continued to fall, I heard a woman's cry. And the only way that I could picture what really happened to this woman, her intense cry, that to this day, it shakes my core. Because I have served God since, you know, I took steps along the way. But let me tell you, I know there's a hell. I know there's a hell. Nobody can tell me there isn't. I heard a woman's cry as if they had put her on a stretch bed and was tearing her apart. And her cry was so intense that I could still hear it in my head sometimes. It's crazy. It's heartbreaking now that I know the truth. It's really heartbreaking because we don't have to go there. It wasn't meant for us, you know. But as I cried out to God, because a week before that, I received Christ as my personal Savior. I did that altar call. I went up, and I didn't go just by feeling. There was something drawing me to God that day when they did the altar call. And I took the chance. I received Him that day. And I believe that's why I'm here today.
That's right. And so, as far as the visual, you can't.
All I know was that I was like in a closed-in area. I couldn't see light. Dark. It was dark. I could. The thing that I almost forgot to say was that there was a sulfur smell, like death, like the skin, you know, deteriorating, like burnt skin, and just a horrible smell of death. Smell. And I think that the worst thing of it all, not just the fact that I knew I was in hell and I was never going to be able to leave, was the fact that the hatred was this cold feeling in this hot place. The hatred was the worst thing that was in this place. People think, oh, good, I get to go to hell and party with my friends. No, it doesn't work like that. I'm sorry, that's a lie from the pit of hell. That's how He wants to get us there. You know, but as I cried out to the Lord, and I kept saying God because I didn't have that personal relationship with Jesus, you know. I had just received Him a week before. I didn't know what more. I just knew that I said yes to Jesus. And as I cried out to God, God, help me, please, God, help me, get me out of here, God, please. I'm sorry. I kept saying, I'm sorry. I thought I did something wrong. I thought by taking the drink of alcohol was what took me to hell. I didn't know better. I didn't know that that's not going to take me to hell. It's my sin that's going to take me to hell, you know, and keep me there. And the fact that we reject Jesus. But when I cried out like a blink, I was in another place. You know, it's almost like it just happened so fast that I found myself on my knees with my hands up like this, like I was in a form of worship, you know, and I could feel two other beings on the side of me. And I didn't care to even look to see who was next to me. I knew that there was one on the right and one on the left, and I don't know if there was people behind me or not. I just knew there was three of us, and we had our hands up. And maybe we all died at the same time, or at the time our spirits had left our bodies, you know. And I remember just having my hands up like this and being in awe of where I had just came from. I escaped hell, is what I thought, you know. And as I'm sitting there, I could feel a presence entering into a room. I knew that I was to stay in obedience where I was. Either one of us got up to move around. And I felt like there was a wall, an invisible wall, like, you know, you can't go this far. So we were to stay there. I just felt like it was an obedience, thing to do. And all of a sudden I felt a presence enter. And let me tell you, before I could even see what it was, I felt a love that I will never experience here on this earth. A great love. I thought that my first husband, that passed away, was like the greatest love I'd ever have, because I truly loved him. I thought this is the love that everybody should have. But let me tell you, God's love is a million times greater than the love you'll ever know here on this earth. Right. And as he got closer, we knew in reverence to respect him. We started to bow down. I just started to go forward, and I remember putting my hands in my face and opening up my hands. I wanted to see with my eyes. I wanted to see what I was, what the being was. And when I looked up, I saw like a cloud. It was like I call it the glory. That's what I call it now. I call it the glory. There was shimmery lights coming off of it, colors that you'll never see on this earth. I mean, red is red here on earth, but let me tell you, red is brighter there than more beautiful than you'll ever see. The rainbow, the colors of the rainbows are so beautiful, coming off and just shimmering off the Lord. And I knew it was him. And I hardly even knew who he was. I had just given my life to him, but we just know, we just know. And as the Lord entered and got closer to me, I remember that I had gone all the way down to the ground and I had put my head down on the floor, and I felt him come close, and I felt him grab my shoulder, and he picked me up, and I saw his feet. His feet is like what people say, or the Bible has spoke about. They're bronze, they're beautiful, they're just shiny like a bronze brown, and just beautiful, soft, And I saw his robe. His robe was the same as mine, no different. The Lord wasn't trying to be any different than I was, because my robe was the same color as his. And as I continued to look up, I saw the belt that was around his waist. It was like a rope, it was a rope that was tied up, a 3-in-twain rope, like you would tie an animal in the old days, the cows or whatever. Yeah. And I remember my grandmother saying that when they used to do that they used to burn the edges so that they wouldn't unravel. And Jesus was just like that. It was like, he was so humble, and like I said, my clothes was no different than his. And when he spoke, it was like authority, but yet love. Just amazing, because it was like he almost as if he was speaking underwater in a way. I don't know how to describe it except that it was clear, but it had a way to it, like a song almost. And it was just so beautiful that he told me that it wasn't my time, that I had to go back. And I remember saying, but Lord, I want to stay. I don't want to go back. Please let me stay. I don't want to go back. And as I started to leave the presence of the Lord, I remember him saying, you must go back. You must tell the truth. You must tell the people, the pastors, the preachers, and the teachers that hell is real. Today, the pastors, teachers, and preachers are afraid to teach the truth. He goes, my people need to know that hell is real, because judgment day will come.
It's coming.
Yes.
And
yes.
So after that, do you go back into your body, or what happens?
As I came back into my body, I started to feel the pain. They had just stuck a tube down my throat because they couldn't fit it through my nose. They said I had one nostril that was too small, but they put it down my throat, and they were pumping my stomach. And I remember trying to say something because I looked over to the right, and I saw my girlfriend, and she was getting her stomach pumped too. And I began to cry out to God, and I said, please, Lord, don't let her go to this place. Don't let her go to this place, because I knew she had never received Christ. And I still know her to this day, and she still hasn't. Even through my testimony, even through what we've experienced. But, and then I remember that either they had just shocked me because I was exposed, and I grabbed the sheet and covered myself. And I remember the doctor saying, just leave her alone. She's fine now. She's fine. And I could hear my mother crying, and I could hear everything, all commotions around me, and I could feel all the stuff that was on my arms, IV, whatever. And I didn't want to come back. I did not want to come back. I wanted to stay. I wanted to stay with the Lord. But I do have a couple of scriptures I'd like to share if you'd like me to.
Oh, most definitely. But really quick, with your friend, did you tell her right after all this? Did you tell her your experience, and she still?
Yes. They put me in a room that day after they cleared it up, and whatever. They put my stomach and stuff. They put me in a room. All I remember was the next morning, the doctor knocks on the door saying he's walking in, right? And he has my folder in his hand, and he goes, young lady, you need to get off the phone. I was on the phone, typical teenager, talking to my boyfriend and stuff. And then she says, young lady, you need to get off the phone. I need to ask you a few questions. So I hung up, and he says, what is your name? And I said, well, you have my chart. You can tell me what my name is. He goes, no, I need to know that you are good, because your nose was completely white. He goes, there was so much PCP and cocaine in your drink that it should have killed 2 large animals weighing 250 pounds apiece. He said, and here you are, 110 pounds. I was 15. You know, it should have killed me. Or I could have been a vegetable. So he was asking me questions. He would ask questions like, you know, what's your name? What's your mom's name? Who's the president? What year are you in? You know, where do you live? Whatever. But, you know, it was just amazing that my mind is still sharp. You know, praise God, I'm still here.
And,
you know?
and your family, do you tell them right away what happened? Or did you wait before you told them your experience? Or
oh my gosh, well, my friend, you know, the one I'm talking about, when I told her about it, she didn't come to the hospital to visit that day because she was having her own stuff to deal with. I'm sure her parents were angry with her, and I had a lot to deal with afterwards too. But you know, I kept saying it wasn't my fault. I didn't do it. But anyway, when the doctor, I should say, was telling me, asking me questions, I asked him a question. I said, how long have you been doing this? You know, a psychiatrist or a psychologist doctor. And I said, how long have you been doing this? And he said, many years. And I said, do you believe in Jesus? And he looked at me and he says, well, you know, we don't really talk about that. And I said, but I'm sure you've heard of stories like this in the past. He goes, many. He goes, and I'll be honest with you. If you tell people, they won't believe you. But I have come to know the Lord because of people like you. I have heard many who have come back with terror sometimes in their heart and in their voice, you know, wanting to share what really happened, but the Lord gave them another time, another year, another life, another chance.
Right.
And I'm grateful that I'm here. I'm grateful that I'm here.
That's cool. That's cool.